Hello everyone, I am FPL Rondo and welcome back to the channel. So game week 6 has concluded and it did result in another red arrow for myself. It is just disappointing because even though I believe that on paper my team has got really good fixtures, my players I'm really happy with, and even the predicted points off of Fantasy Football Hub was predicting about 69.6 points this week, which was basically on that 70 point mark. Unfortunately, that was not the case, as you will see very soon. And yeah, it was just another disappointing week, but we will go over the score review. We're also going to potentially look at some transfers that I am eyeing up going into game week 7. I know my wild card is currently planned for about game week 8 or 9, so I am wanting to get a punt in potentially. That is my current mindset, just to try and capitalize on some points that other people won't be getting. That could end up biting me in the backside as well, though. So we're going to sort of have to balance our risk out with reward. But we're going to get into all that in this video, so stay tuned and subscribe if you haven't already. It'd be very much appreciated. So 60 points it was for me this week, and it was quite a disappointing week. Obviously, as you can see, there were some standout players. Onana had a fantastic week for me. Finally got that clean sheet that I've been holding on to him for. Obviously, I didn't have too much choice because I was sort of forced into benching Matt Turner against Manchester City. So very happy that Onana got the clean sheet nonetheless. Saliba was a bit disappointing, but I was expecting him to concede, as I said in my team selection video earlier on in this week. I was just expecting him to concede, but it is what it is. He was my third best defender, so I just ended up playing him and hoping he would do something. Botman, though. Botman. Obviously, it was an 8-0 win for Newcastle, and that is an unbelievable score. You don't see that too often. I'm very happy Botman was on the score sheet for at least one of the goals. Unfortunately, that was all it was for him, and he only got the clean sheet and the goal bonuses. No extra bonus points on top of that. So, bit disappointed there. But when the team as a whole is scoring 8 goals, you can't complain too much. At least he got a goal. Estepinian obviously didn't get a clean sheet again. It's just the typical Bryson. He did get the assist and the bonus points and knock himself up to 6 points, which is a great score nonetheless. And then obviously this is where it all starts to go downhill. The midfield is where it all fell apart. Saka did unbelievable work for me. Obviously got the assist and then the goal as well. Just absolutely phenomenal stuff. And then the free bonus on top of that. Can't ask for anything more from Saka. Odegaard, on the other hand, with his 1-pointer, he's not done much for me, along with Rashford and Eze. Those three as a whole have just been disappointing this season, and all three of them will most likely be gone on the wild card, if not sooner. Eze is probably the quickest to be gone, just because he has not been impressing me one bit, and no matter who he plays against, he just doesn't seem to be getting any returns, apart from that one game, which he did sort of do very well for me with that 8 points against Wolves, but apart from that, that's all he's produced. It's just been so disappointing from the midfield. Their expected points have been so high, but they've just produced so little for me. So yeah, this is an area I need to improve on massively going forwards. Moving on to the forwards now, and honestly, this could have been so much more. I don't know if any of you would agree, but Haaland getting the 1 goal and no bonus points does feel like a bit underwhelming based off of what could have been. Obviously, it was only a 2-0 victory against Nottingham Forest at home. You would be expecting about 4 or 5, honestly, from that fixture, and Haaland being on a few more goals. But the way the game played out, it was quite stale, it was a bit boring, and it was not very end-to-end. There was just not much to it, and there was no sting. It just did feel like a very slow and just dead game, basically. And obviously Haaland getting that goal was a result. It just could have been so much more, I feel, and I do feel a bit disappointed with his performance once again. It does feel the same with Haaland most weeks now. Obviously we do expect him to get at least a goal, which he does, but he never gets anything more, and that's a bit concerning for me, just based on the fact that he is a 14 million forward. And you look at his scores, and the only good standout ones really was 20 points against Fulham and 13 points against Burnley, which was the very first game of the season. Apart from that, he's produced 6, 6, 4, and 2. And honestly, I'm not too sure. There is a potential for captaincy elsewhere going forwards, just on the fact that Manchester City, well, Haaland specifically, isn't putting away his chances as much as he really should be compared to his XG numbers that he's putting up. It is just a bit disappointing from him, although he is still getting the goals at the end of the day. Alvarez was a different story. He did only get the 1 point and was substituted before the 60-minute mark, so he didn't even get his extra point there. I do feel like this was mainly down to Rodri's red card, which did take any slight bit of sting that was left out of that game, and it just completely killed it off, and it was just possession-based from there. But Alvarez, I feel like if Rodri doesn't get that red card, he stays on for the full 90 minutes and potentially gets a goal there or an assist. It just wasn't meant to be, and unfortunately, it's just one of those games where Manchester City assets, even though we were so expecting so much from them, it just never ended up being the case, and hopefully that doesn't continue and doesn't turn into a long-term trend. But for now, I'm just not too convinced at Manchester City either, which is a strange one to say, bearing in mind that they are still getting their chances, getting a lot of goals. They just do seem to be coming from other places, along with Haaland, which is different compared to last season. Moving on to that substitutes bench there, and there's not much to talk about here either. Obviously, Kabore was the standout player, getting his assist and 5 points there from that. The rest of it just does sort of speak for itself. Obviously, I did move Kabore to that second slot in the outfield bench options, just because I was so convinced that Udogie was going to have a bad week. That did end up being the case. Same for João Pedro. He did only get that 1 point, which was again expected, and same for Matt Turner. So yeah, overall it was just a very underwhelming week, even including the bench options, and Kabore was never going to make it to my starting 11, so I'm not too disappointed there. Obviously, based on my current position in this season so far, I would have liked for those 5 points to be on the team starting 11, but it is what it is, and I've just got to accept it and move on. I'm going to touch on transfers slightly now, and this applies to both wildcarders and non-wildcarders, because I think the fixture run is great for both teams long term, but could be very good for a punt on the short term as well. So Aston Villa is the first one that I'm going to discuss. Now, as you can see up here, they have a great run of fixtures. They've got Brighton, Wolves and West Ham going up to game week 9, which is when I'm approximately thinking about wildcarding. But then after that, they've got Luton, Nottingham Forest, Fulham, and Tottenham after that. So there is a great run in the long term as well. Players from Aston Villa that I would be eyeing up is the likes of Matty Cash and Ollie Watkins. But for me, Moussa Diaby is the main one that I am eyeing up, just due to the fact that I think he's more nailed for 90 minutes and could rotate with, could get swapped in for someone like an Eze or an Erdegaard, who hasn't been performing in my team very much as of now. So yeah, it's just a straight swap for me in that position. So that midfield area is the place that I need work on the most. But yeah, if you have the flexibility, Ollie Watkins and Matty Cash could be great options for this time period as well. Looking down here, we see Newcastle, which is the second team that I'm going to discuss. And after that 8-0 win, you just can't ignore them. But their run of fixtures coming up is fantastic also. Going up to game week 9, which is again when I'm thinking about wildcarding, you've got Burnley, West Ham and Crystal Palace. A great little run there. And then Wolves, Arsenal, I know is a tough fixture, but then Bournemouth and Chelsea, which Chelsea to me is a really good fixture currently. So yeah, Newcastle have a fantastic run coming up as well. The likes of Wilson is someone that I might think of a short-term punt if you are wildcarding in game week 9, because even if he does start to get benched after a few games, you can easily swap him out on that wildcard and get him straight out of your team, but could very much get the goals in the coming game weeks as well. Anthony Gordon is the main one that I'm going to discuss though from Newcastle. He is probably the cheapest attacker in that Newcastle squad that is nailed, especially after the news that Harvey Barnes has picked up an injury, so he might very well be out for a few weeks and could be a perfect punt going up to that wild card again. On the short term, Gordon looks like a fantastic pick and could get a lot of points in the next 3 game weeks leading up to that game week 9. It could very well be a great score for him. But yeah, both of those teams have great fixtures, and any player, to be fair, that's nailed in those lineups could do very well in these fixtures. So I'm going to end today's video there. Honestly, I just think there's not too much to talk about, and when I'm getting red arrows every week, I just don't want to keep talking about that. So yeah, there's just not much at all to talk about. So yeah, I hope you can understand, but I do think those punty transfers at the end are worth a thought, especially if you are planning on wildcarding around game week 8 or 9. I think it might be worthwhile just to get some extra points in there potentially. But yeah, I'm going to end the video there. So thank you all so much for watching, and we will discuss transfers more in my team selection for game week 7 when I will have made my mind up more on whether I'm going to do a transfer or not this week. So yeah, thank you all again so much for watching, and take care.